right now, and we're live. We are live with Scott Johnson, and we're gonna wait a bit to see if people hop on. But yeah. So, are you in New Providence right now, or your background looks very LLNP-ish?
It's very retreat-ish.
Oh, snap! The retreat. Yeah, I was definitely there a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh man, definitely. I love being at the retreat. It's just such a beautiful green space in the middle of an urban city, right?
Like it's an absolutely wonderful green space, and I can't express how much I miss this place here being like the head office, like how it once was. I enjoy just like like when you just want to just go for a walk and clear your head. Sometimes you could just walk through the gardens and do that, but this is a wonderful green space in like a very densely populated part of the island, and currently doing research on birds in this national park. And so I was here today setting up nets so that we could start getting in the banding process of banding birds and stuff like that in these national parks and learn more about them. And then we're going to do other bigger things, such as look at endemics on other family islands, band them, and hopefully put some radio transmitters on them. So this is a start. This is a start project. This is the start of a much bigger project, which I hope will happen soon.
Now, I'm about to hold you up right there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn to band a bird. Can we talk about this? Like, I definitely, if you need help, I am spongeable enough to learn. Because I remember you told me you can't just hold a bird by like it's at the bottom of its foot. Like people never notice that birds actually have more like up under their body. Like they have knees. They have knees.
Yeah. So the parts that you're holding would be the drumsticks of the bird, basically. And then you have the long ankle bone called the tibiotarsus. And that's the part where people normally see when they see a bird hopping on the floor. They don't really see the full leg, like the femur, because the femur is basically immovable on the bird. So they're just seeing the leg and the tibiotarsus. So when you hold the bird, you got to hold it above the tibiotarsus so that you don't injure the bird. But yeah, I can show you how to handle a bird, even ways in which you can help identify a male from a female. And it's just a wonderful experience to have a bird in the hand.
Right.
To say that I'm holding this bird that I'm always seeing is one thing, right? I mean, to see a bird is one thing, but to have it in your hand is another. So, yeah.
I'm trying to hold a white crown pigeon. Like, I be identifying them like crazy now because I'm like, I know what this looks like. And green herons, I'm like, I love when I can actually say what the bird is. And the other day when I went low-key birding with like Dr. Angelino Davis, Lino, I was like, oh my gosh, look at this little, I think it was a kestrel. I was like, I know what that looks like now, And,
Excellent.
Right. So we are 3 minutes in, and I know we're here to talk about something else. I know the sun behind you is glaring just a little bit in the camera.
Let me turn around, get out of the sun.
Sure, definitely. So thank you for everyone who's signed in so far. We have a couple of viewers watching. Yes, Miss Jasmine Rain. I want to hold a bird too. I think this is a future episode, guys. Like I've already been inspired to do an episode on how to hold a bird and how to tag a bird. So hopefully Scott will indulge me in a few months on that.
Oh, I'll indulge you every month, as long as I'm not really traveling and doing something else. I'm normally in the retreat or primeval, and so whenever you want, when we have time, we are going to try and catch some birds. Let's see what's what.
I am here for it. I'm gonna go find someone with a camera and be like, record me holding this bird. Like, bro. So, welcome everyone to Siren Sundays, Season 3, Episode 4, with the Bahamian Naturalist, founder and creator of Wild Bahamas on Facebook. So definitely follow that page, Mr. Scott Johnson, who is here to talk to us about wildlife trafficking and CITES. So Scott, tell the people who you are, a little bit about yourself, some of the work you've done, what even got you interested in like herbs, birds, and plants, like all things terrestrial, really.
Okay, so hi everybody. Once again, I'm Scott Johnson. I am the Bahamian Naturalist, and I am the creator of Wild Bahamas, as Lashanti so eloquently said. I'm also a science officer at the Bahamas National Trust. My job is I deal with avian and terrestrial matters that pertain to the national park system of the Bahamas. I assist with research. I take people out on tours. I help with trainings and workshops and those kind of things. And I do a lot of research in the national parks with my colleagues. I have an amazing set of science colleagues who are doing some fantastic work, and this is a very busy year. And so it's good to be a part of a great, wonderful team such as the NTN, the science team. What got me into wildlife? Well, I would say, I guess, I've always been interested in animals. Dinosaurs probably is the best answer. I love dinosaurs. When I say I love dinosaurs, I love dinosaurs. I enjoyed everything about it. I wanted to actually be a paleontologist, but it turns out that dinosaurs didn't really exist in the Bahamas, and so that kind of saddened me a little bit. But there's still a lot of really cool animals, so I continue to nurture that passion for dinosaurs and wildlife, and then finding out, hey, birds, they're also dinosaurs. So
exactly. Say it again.
Exactly.
Are dinosaurs.
Yeah, and so that I just nurtured that passion for wildlife and the outdoors. I am not a water person, so I'm sorry. That's just how the ball rolls sometimes. I love terrestrial fauna. I love the animals that people do not like. So nice 5-inch long tarantulas. Love those guys. I love 8-foot Bahamian boas. I love Bahamian racers. I love centipedes. I love all of those cool, cool, quote, disgusting animals. And so.
Oh, great. Oh, you had me at centipede. Oh my gosh, Scott.
Oh yeah, I remember just at work because I went to Kingsway Academy as a kid.
Hey.
And so go Saints, right? Graduated from LW Young, so go Golden Eagles. But as a kid, I used to bring these animals to school, and that type of thing also continued to nurture my passion for Bahamian wildlife. And so it is now I get to actually work in the field that I am really interested in, and that is Bahamian wildlife.
Oh, see, that is great. I think it's so amazing when I hear people like you who've just been passionate about things from their very, very young age, and you're able to kind of grow into that. And I know a couple episodes ago, I spoke with Eric, and we literally kept highlighting you because people like you are so important for the youth of the Bahamas to see, right? Someone who is actually into the weird, creepy crawlies and into these like modern day dinosaurs, right? Like birds and reptiles, and actually show that you can make your career out of that. Like this can be your life. Like this can be what you do for work every single day because this is something you're passionate about. This is something that you love doing. So I listen, Scott, because I knew about Scott from even before I worked with him and even after. And I'm excited for this episode. Mm-hmm. So our topic today, of course, is the wildlife trafficking in the Bahamas, which is it's a complex issue. I think every time I've brought up wildlife trafficking with just, I guess the typical Bahamian who's not in conservation in the environmental field, they're like, we have those issues. Like what kind of wildlife do we have, right? That people would want to traffic. So can you talk about that? What does wildlife trafficking mean for the Bahamas? And what are some of the major issues that we face in that?
All right. So first of all, we have to understand that the Bahamas is part of the West Indian region. I'm sure everybody should know that already. Mm-hmm. And what they may not know is that the West Indies is one of 36 biodiversity hotspots. The West Indies has thousands of unique plants and animals that are found nowhere else on Earth. And that uniqueness makes us, sadly, a target because there are persons out there who love the uniqueness of our animals. They love the uniqueness of our plants, and they are willing to take the risk to come to the Bahamas, come to the Cuba and other parts of the West Indies to try and grab a very unique species of animal. for many reasons. One of them just being bragging rights to say, hey, I have this very cool iguana that's found only here, and what makes things even more special is that this animal is critically endangered. There's only a few of them left, and I have one of them. So, I'm going to brag about that. And we do see this on web pages, on social media and stuff like that, where people, they have these iguanas and they're showing them off, and we're like, how did you get this?
How do you get one of them?
Yeah, well, and and so those are the things that we have to that we are concerned about. We being Bahamian government, Bahamas National Trust, and others. We don't want people coming here and taking our stuff. We don't want them doing things that are not properly documented, and unfortunately, stuff like that is happening.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, one of the biggest issues with the whole wildlife trafficking thing in this country is, one, it was not considered a major priority to really focus on. I mean, if you had to choose between saving some iguanas and you find $100,000 worth of cocaine or whatever, guess what the authorities are going to be going for? But what people don't realize is that a lot of the same avenues that wildlife traffickers are moving through are the same avenues that the other drug trafficking and weapons trafficking and even sex trafficking, human trafficking, they are going along the same avenues. And so by helping with that, you can actually cut the head off of a major industry that is a very big problem, and one of the biggest problem threats to our biodiversity.
Yeah, and I know earlier in your talk just now, you mentioned biodiversity hotspots. So for people who may not be aware, can you just briefly explain what is it, and what is it for us as a Bahamian country, or as the Bahamas, to be a biodiversity hotspot? What is that?
To be a biodiversity hotspot means that your region has a level of the amount of different plants and animals, the unique plants and animals that we have here has reached a level where and the high level of endemism is really, really rich, really high. And so that makes your region extremely special. Yeah, there are other places around the world that have animals and plants and stuff like that, but yours have a high diversity of unique plants and animals. And the Bahamas is just a small part of this big picture called the West Indian region. But we have some of those very cool animals. Okay, so we have lizards that you'll find nowhere else. We have snakes that you'll find nowhere else. We have birds you'll find nowhere else. We have endemic plants you can find nowhere else. We even have little tardigrades, which are these tiny extremophile little organisms. Some of you may have heard about those guys, but we actually have a few endemic species of tardigrades that you can find throughout the Bahamas. And so being rich in biodiversity makes us exceptional, makes our region exceptional on the world stage.
Yeah, because I always think back to when I was still at Bahamas National Trust, and it was Shelley, Director of Science and Policy, who was like, yeah, they just discovered a new species of beetle on San Salvador. And I was like, who is studying beetles? How did they get to San Salvador? And I always hear that, right? Like the Bahamas, and personally, I've heard it said by other people, and I will continue to say it because I think it's great. We are almost kind of like the next Galapagos. Like when Darwin went and found like all these different, finches, I think it was. We have the potential to still be like that. We are so untapped. I mean, we recently found those hybrid seahorses only found here. But in talking about these like endemic species, which are species only found here, we have endangered ones that are only found here. And that's where CITES kind of comes into play. So can you briefly talk about what is CITES and how is CITES connected to the wildlife trafficking industry that we have prevalent in our world today?
Well, so because wildlife trafficking is such a big problem, you had countries and organizations, they wanted to find ways in which they can help to combat that. That's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and you don't want anything that you don't want, nothing like that happening, which can jeopardize a whole species and cause them to go extinct. And so this is where CITES comes in. CITES stands for the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species of Fauna and Flora, and it helps to regulate the import and export of species to help mitigate against them going extinct or becoming endangered in the wild. And so you have some species that are a lot of these animals are placed in different categories called appendices. And so you have the appendix 1, the CITES appendix 1. That's like the rare of the rare, endangered, critically endangered ones. A good example of that would be our Bahamian rock iguanas and our silver boas. Those are appendix 1 species. And then you have appendix 2, which is they can be threatened with the selling and the capture of wild specimens and stuff like that. So appendix 2 species would be something like our tropes or pygmy boas and our Bahamian boas. Okay. And then you have appendix 3, appendix 4, et cetera, et cetera. But basically it helps to it's documentation that a person who wants to import or export a organism that they must have, and those animals, we have to know about the status of those animals. So it's a lot of research that goes involved with that, and committees that are involved that help us to determine, well, yeah, you could import or export these animals. No, you cannot import or export these animals. Right. So I guess I tried to summarize that in as simple as I could, but I hope that works.
Yeah, you did great. Listen, and I know that you've had your own experience, right, dealing with iguanas that were trafficked from the Bahamas all the way to the UK, which I just came back from. So even just doing that flight, it blows my mind, right? Yeah. To think about iguanas that were carried from one of the Bahamian islands all the way to the UK. So what you can share, if you can please just share, like, what was your experience in finding that out, dealing with that situation, and bringing our iguanas back home, really?
Yeah. So before I jump into that, there's just a couple of things that I would like to mention, and that is that there are a lot of people who are coming to the Bahamas and the West Indies. They love our country. They love everything about us, our food, our animals, our sun, sand, and sea, whatever. But then you have that small group of people who aren't coming here really to enjoy all of those things. They're coming here to assess things. They're coming here to assess the security of our wildlife. They're coming here to assess where these animals are. They're coming here to look at all of the weaknesses the country may have so that they can relay that information to key buyers in different countries. And then once that information comes in, they may wait a few months. They may even wait a couple of years, but they are coming back here to go ahead and move forward with their plans. And I guess that's one of the ways in which so much of our animals have been smuggled out of the country in the 70s. Bahamian boas, I know Bahamians don't like Bahamian boas. They like to talk about snakes. They don't really like to talk about snakes. I don't believe that. I think Bahamians do like snakes because they're so interesting.
Cool, they are.
Yeah. But in the 70s, hundreds of Bahamian boas were smuggled out of the country. And as recently as 2001, a dentist tried to smuggle 3 Bahamian boas out of Andros. Yeah.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Yeah. And then you have the whole 2014 situation with the rock iguana. So in February, so how the story goes, if I can relay it somewhat properly, in February of 2014, the UK Border Force at Heathrow Airport, they were inspecting some luggage that were from 2 Romanian women who recently came from a trip from the Bahamas. As they were inspecting the luggage, they noticed some iguanas were in the luggage. 13 of them actually stuffed in socks. So naturally, the women were apprehended, and also those iguanas were believed to be San Salvador rock iguana, Cyclura riley. and so they were caught. They were the lizard, the iguanas were apprehended, and then the officials at the airport and others, they talked with the Bahamian government because these were CITES Appendix 1 species, and so people wanted to know. So they wanted to know, okay, Bahamian government, do you want these guys back? And we were like, yeah, we want these back.
Of course, we want them back.
Yeah, we want our iguanas back. And so after a few months of negotiations, the iguanas came back to the Bahamas. And we have to give credit to the Bahamian government for really working hard to go and bring our animals back home. They didn't go directly back to their home island because there's still a lot of stuff that we had to figure out. And so those iguanas were sent. They came back to Nassau, and then they went to San Salvador, where the Gerace Research Center, they had set up some cages for them to be in quarantine for a while. Unfortunately, during that whole process, they started off with 13 iguanas. At the end, 9 survived. So we lost four very unique iguanas. And it turns out that those iguanas were not from San Salvador, but they were from a key in Exuma called Sandy Key. And how do they know that? Is because the U.S. Border Force, they were going to put pit tags in those iguanas, but then they realized that those iguanas already had pit tags in them. You know, pit tags just so that they could ID that this animal came from this place, etc. But it turns out that these animals did have pit tags in them, and they was able to determine that these guys did come in from, these guys were smuggled from Sandy Key. And so the Bahamas National Trust and the Ministry of Environment and stuff like that, they went ahead and they started looking for areas where they can put this population. And Sandy Buckner, who played a pivotal role in helping with this whole project, she had originally visited a key called Pigeon Key in the Exumas a few decades ago, and then some BNT staff like Lindy Knowles and Ethan Freed and a couple others, they went to the key to do some ground truthing. They said, yeah, this place would be good for these animals to go. And so these animals went to Pigeon Key, and that's where they are now. So you had 8 males and 1 female. It's kind of a skewed amount of iguanas. So what they did was they went back and they went to Sandy Key, and they wanted to bring a few more iguanas there just so that they could have another established population of iguanas there, and so for assistance with breeding purposes. Right. Those guys then went to Pigeon Key, and so far they're doing pretty good.
Oh, that's nice to hear. I mean, and if I can ask, I think you were able to go and actually bring them back, correct?
Yeah, that was the fun part. It was me and Sandy and Philip Weish, and I think there was a couple other persons. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting names, but this was like 7 years ago. Sorry. But we went and we got some measurements of those iguanas in San Salvador. Then we traveled to Pigeon Key, where we released those guys. And I must admit, the subspecies Cyclura riley cristata, which those iguanas were, they are some of the most beautiful iguanas on Earth. And I'm going to say it again. They are some of the most beautiful rock iguanas on Earth. If you
say the scientific name again,
you will be like, wow, you guys are gorgeous. And they're very small. They're small iguanas.
Right. And that's Cyclura riley crista, you said?
Cristata.
Cristata, I suck with these Latin words. So, okay, Cyclura riley cristata. The most beautiful iguanas in the world. You heard it here first.
My personal belief is, don't get me wrong. The Andros rock iguana is also a nice looking animal. But when I saw the San Salvador rock iguana subspecies, I was like, wow, this is a very pretty animal.
And that's with the orange, because I think I've seen on low key though.
Orange, got some blue. It looks like got some blue. It almost has like this coralish, like I don't know. just can't explain it. They just are gorgeous animals.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I will agree. I think I've definitely seen some in San Salvador in that same orangey color, and I was just blown away by. And I'm granted, I'm going to be so honest with everyone and yourself, and you already know how I am with reptiles. Like Scott is the one who got a snake on me. Him and Shannon was the one who put a snake on me for the first time, and it's amazing how until you see them in real life and you interact with them and you appreciate, these animals for what they are, you really start to see their beauty. And seeing one of those iguanas in San Salvador for the first time, I was just astonished. They are so beautiful, like majestic even, and just watching them sunbathe. It's just, oh man, I see why you love reptiles and your little modern day dinosaurs, because it's something important to be proud of, as well as a Bahamian. Like this is something so special and so unique to us. So shout out to you.
Bahamians, okay?
True Bahamians are these
true Bahamians. These animals have been here long before us. And if it wasn't for man encroachment and whatever, they would be here long after us. Yeah. But these are the true. When you're talking about Bahamian endemics, you're talking about those real true Bahamians. And that's exactly what those iguanas are.
And if I could touch on this, I know we hadn't talked about this before, but I had an episode a while back with Shannon, if you remember, talking about how one of our tourist attractions are these iguanas in the Exuma Keys. And I really got to stick it to some of these tour companies because they feed them grapes, right? Could you just touch on that? Why are grapes bad and what is better if you have to, right, quote unquote, feed these animals? Why are grapes bad and what's a better option?
So grapes are terrible for rock iguanas, for iguanas, because one, they have a high sugar content, which has a negative effect on the animal's digestive system. And also a lot of times those grapes drop on the floor. So they're ingesting the grape and they're ingesting the sand, which leads to impaction in their gut. They can't poop. And if you can't poop, you're going to die. So basically that's what this is. So from a conservationist, BNT, Bahamas National Trust perspective, we don't really condone the feeding of wildlife. Native animals should be left alone to go and forage for themselves. But that can get very tricky because, well, a lot of conservation organizations, they set up bird feeders.
Oh my gosh.
And if you set up bird feeders, that kind of throws things a little off whack, I guess.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend, though, if in the event that you are a tour guide, I understand, I totally get it. You trying to make some money. You have a nice feature, which is the iguanas. People want to see it. They're really cool with it and stuff like that. If you are going to do that, you should try and stick to as native as possible. There are lots of fruits that are in season throughout the year that you can feed the iguanas that are native to the Bahamas. They include things like darling plum. They include things like thatch palm fruit, sable palmetto fruit, what else? Sea grapes, cocoa plum. All of these types of fruits are native and they are better for the animal than grapes.
Right.
Pigeon plum is great for rock iguanas. They also eat native leaves and flowers and stuff like that. So I would say that if you are interested, if you are a tour guide operator, you may want to just learn a little bit more about the native plants that we have here, which ones are in fruit and which ones would be best for the animals. And then stop dropping them things on the floor. Stop dropping fruit on the floor for them buggers to eat. Them poor iguanas can't. We cannot be doing that. They cannot not be eating sand. Okay. So that's my personal view on it. Feed them native, and it's better for them. It's actually better for the environment as well because they can poop out them seeds, and seeds can germinate into native vegetation. Right. If you're gonna deal with that, go native. Just as much as you possibly can, go native.
Right. And I do have another question that someone asked me earlier this week, and I thought it'd be perfect to ask you. So I hope I'm not putting you on the spot again. They found a turtle, and I can't tell if it's, the red-eared Cat Island slider and I know that we have like a hybridized version of it, and I think there's also an invasive version of it, but they found it and they were like, well, Lashanti, you know, what could I feed them? I give them grapes. And I was like, grapes? Why would you feed it grapes? So if you do know, and if you don't, it's fine, because I know I'm putting you on the spot with this. What should that person do in regards to feeding this beautiful little turtle? And it's not even that little. It's literally about this big. It's a female.
So are we talking about, if we're talking about the sliders, the sliders are, even though they could be primarily vegetarian, they are opportunistic and they will eat whatever they can, whatever you give them.
Like grapes.
I still would say try your best to just feed them native fruits as much as you possibly can. And the issue is that New Providence is just loaded with hybrids. It's not like when we go to Eleuthera and you see a full, a pure breed, a Cat Island slider, or go to Cat Island and see a full breed Cat Island slider. These are hybrids because people, and if we're talking about wildlife trafficking, wildlife smuggling, and all that kind of stuff, there's another aspect to it, and that is that people are importing. They're bringing in animals incognito into the country. Some of it is intentional, others is unintentional. But for the ones that are intentional, they bring these animals into the country. These animals are very small. A baby turtle is a very cute little thing. It's only like about that big or something like that. So they're really, really cute. And everybody loves babies until the babies grow up and develop attitudes and they start biting you and that kind of thing. And so what are you going to do? You're going to think that you're doing a good job by releasing these animals into the wild. When you do that, you just cause the potential a whole bunch of new problems for the ecosystem and for us. These non-native animals can be carrying diseases. Right now, the reason why we're in quarantine right now, why we have to wear masks all over the place now, is because of the bushmeat trade and how coronavirus, was being transported through bats, which are vectors for a lot of nasty diseases. And so people have been eating bats and that kind of thing, and stuff has started to spread. And then you have the whole thing with other diseases. Like a few years ago, dogs were carrying distemper, and people were transporting dogs from New Providence to islands like Andros and Eleuthera and stuff like that. And then people's dogs were dying. These animals were not properly inspected, and people just go ahead and they do what they want to do. You don't want to do stuff like that. When you bring in animals into the country, exotic animals into the country, you do not know what you may not know what their biology may be. You may not know what what diseases that they may be carrying, and you just threaten our biodiversity as well as our health, possibly. Last year we had a big killing toad outbreak again. Where did those killing toads come from? A population most likely from Florida that came in on plants or other vegetation or something. Boom. Yeah. No problem. So.
Right. Oh man. So just to get us a bit back on track, right? So what can the average Bahamian, and I say average in the sense that someone who's not obviously in the environmental sector or in conservation, what can they do to help, combat this wildlife trafficking issue that we have, whether it be the exporting or the importing, like you just pointed out? Like what can someone do to help kind of fight that?
Well, one, if you are interested in a pet, the first thing you should do is learn as much about your pet as possible. There are laws in place in this country in which you are not allowed to have certain animals without documentation, without permits, and stuff like that. And you can be fined if you're not careful. So, one, learn about the biology of your pet. Learn about how fast do they grow, how many offspring they can produce. Can they produce asexually, which means they do not need a partner, because that can be a real problem in the long term. Yes. Another thing that you can do is, if you do have pets, like non-native pets, like your cats and dogs, you want to keep them on a leash or keep them in your house, because they are, especially house cats, are one of the biggest, most dangerous invasive animals in the world. So you want to keep them on a leash. You want to try and abide by the laws of the country. If you are saying that let's say you wanted to import or export conch. Let's say you want to export 1,000 pounds of conch. I know that's small, but whatever. But and you write that on your export documentation, but you ended up catching and trying to export 1,500 pounds of conch. What you're doing is smuggling. People don't realize that, but on your export permit it says 1,000 pounds, but you put 15. You put on 1,500 to get more profit. That's a form of smuggling. Okay,
Yeah.
so following and abiding by laws, learning about the biology of your pets, keeping your animals on leashes, and not releasing animals in the wild. Non-native animals in the wild are good examples of ways in which you can help combat that. And also, if you see somebody who may be doing something that you may find questionable, don't hesitate to contact a local authority and let them know, because people have tried to sell me Bahamian animals. I had a guy who tried to sell me an American kestrel. I have people who tried to sell me Bahamian boas. Yeah, right. And I had people who called me saying that there are persons who are out there trying to sell Bahamian animals to foreigners. And so there's some things going on in this country, but everybody can everybody can be a conservationist. And if they really love their Bahamian animals, their Bahamian wildlife, then what they can do is just call the local authorities. I recommend them getting the Department of Environmental Protection and Planning app on their phones or whatever, and just sending information to DEP, Department of Environmental Planning and Protection, just so that they know that stuff like this is happening. And let's do whatever we can to curb these behaviors that are happening. And also, we need to continue to educate enforcement agencies. Enforcement agencies need to be more and more aware of the wildlife that we have here. Everything is just not about conch, grouper, crawfish, and sea turtles. We have animals here that can fetch tens of thousands of dollars on black markets, like our iguanas, like our snakes. And so they get educated and just asking the judicial system, hoping that the judicial system can get into the habit of pushing for more wildlife enforcement in this country. But just to say again, I am glad that the government is starting to make strides in that direction. The Wild Bahamas Defense Force has been doing a great job with we're trying to enforce anti-trafficking law regulations and stuff. And then also our airport has now gotten into starting to keep an eye out for persons who may be trying to smuggle plants and animals in and out of the country.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think you've also been a part of helping train, like, some of the customs officers in that, and just understanding what are some of the key things to look for, even just, I don't know, some of the behavioral traits or just some common things that these like smugglers have in common for these wildlife trafficking cases. So thank you so much for all your hard work and dedication. I think you are definitely one of those important type of people that we need in our country that one, love the creepy crawlies, right? Because that's the very first thing we started with, like centipedes. I know, and I only recently, as much as I respected snakes, Scott is the reason I started actually liking snakes. I love them as Bahamian creatures, but oh boy.
Oh, so just a note, I know I'm not expecting everybody to love snakes. I don't expect that at all. But if you can just respect them enough that you won't kill them, then that'll be great. I think that in the last few years, we've been doing a great job at curbing people's desires to kill a snake. So now you have people who are actually defending snakes, as opposed to 10 years ago where they were being like, boy, you see that big snake, boy, chop that, boy. So it's like, nah, bro. Now everybody's like, yeah, but snakes, they kill rats and they eat rat and things like that. So we ain't want to kill them. And then with our Nassau snake rescue team, we are doing as much as we can, I should say, in helping to remove these snakes, because you should relocate, not exterminate our snakes. Okay?
Oh, I like that. Relocate, not exterminate. And that's powerful, because I definitely have seen a change ever since you started doing your snake handling workshops too, because I do believe that there are a lot of Bahamians, that we talk about, like they're on the fence, right? They're not at the point where they want to just go and chop a snake, but they're just at the point where they don't really even know, well, how, if I do see a snake, how do I deal with that? And Scott, kudos to you again, right? Thank you so much for even facilitating those workshops and kind of breaking that barrier for people who have been afraid. Unfortunately, I haven't been to one yet, so I still don't know how to, like, like I had someone ask me the other day, like, hey, I have a snake in my house. Can you help me? And I'm like, I can point you in the right direction, though. But I can't help you. So I will definitely make sure to shoot that link to the snake rescue Facebook page, where we finally started to get this awareness, right? Like, you don't have to kill the snake if you're that scared, if it's bothering you, which, I mean, you should be happy it's there, right? I mean, that's showing you a sign of the fact that you probably have rats near or around your house.
Yep.
This Facebook page, I'm on it, and I even just see when people just shoot it, and it's so responsive. You have everyday Bahamians who live in these areas that are very happy, and even kids. I think you actually had a post where you had a kid who even was very happy to tell his dad, hey, come and take me. I know what I need to do to rescue this snake. So shout out to that. I don't know if there are any in the near future. I thoroughly plan on attending the next one. So please, when you have that next one, let me know. And yeah, you've done so much great work for not even just the Bahamian people, just these Bahamian animals that we have that, like you said, these are the types of things that the Bahamians are typically scared of for our superstitious reasons, like the snakes are the devil, or owls even. Like, I recently found out people's fear about owls, and it blew my mind. Like, people want to kill owls. Oh yeah. And they want to kill them because they feel like it's a sign of death. And all these crazy things. And while I respect people's beliefs, I think you always have to kind of base your things in, like, God wouldn't have created these creatures if they didn't have a purpose, right? So, right. So shout out to you for that. And I know there are so many young Bahamians, or even just young people in general, or older people as well. I'm not going to discriminate against the adults who might just be interested in some of the things that you do and that you talk about. So what would you say to somebody who is interested in being a naturalist like yourself? How would you inspire even just the youth who see you every day handling snakes and want to do this as their career?
Well, one, I don't think I do anything really that special other than I just like to spend my time outside. I love the outdoors. And so the first thing I would mention to people is start reading, but definitely go outside and just enjoy nature. It will come if you enjoy nature. You start appreciating the wildlife outside and just observing, and even getting like a little book like these and just start documenting stuff that you may see. You're on the way of being a great naturalist, and then you work to help to preserve and conserve species. You don't go and kill everything that you see, and stuff like that. And there are a lot of information out there on these animals, and more information coming out now on these animals that you may be interested in. And so working with Bahamas National Trust, becoming a member so you could go on these tours and so you can experience national parks and really appreciate the fact that these national parks are indeed protecting the animals that we call true Bahamians, those endemics. So by having those national parks, you help us out by joining the BNT and visiting national parks. You help us to continue to do the work that we do, which is managing the national park system, protecting those animals that we love so much.
And spreading the awareness. I think Primeval Forest is still my number one park in New Providence. The retreat is great. Don't get me wrong. And you at the retreat right now, it's great. But being in the Primeval Forest, which FYI is now open on Saturdays, I think from 9 to 4, if I'm correct. It's like not even a once in a lifetime experience, because you can go again. Become a member so you can go for free, because you're going to want to go multiple times. This park, it takes you into, like, it almost feels like you step into like a different time in Bahamian history, right? And I've seen the little fossils on the wall. I saw a conch shell in the wall, right? Which just shows the rich culture and just amazingness, right, of the Bahamas. So definitely for anyone listening, if you haven't been yet, Primeval Forest, managed by the Bahamas National Trust, is open on Saturdays 9 to 4, as well as Bonefish Pond National Park. That is also another environment that you need to check out if you haven't yet. The retreat, I'm pretty sure, is open throughout the week. I don't know if the normal schedule hours are 9 to 4.
Yeah, I think it's about that. I think probably Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is 9 to 4 for the retreat, which is in the middle of the urban city, right? And so before I jump to final thoughts, I did see a question, and it was about raccoons, right? How healthy is the raccoon population here, and are they endangered? I know what you're about to say. Hit them with the facts, right? Raccoons, as cute as they are.
Okay, so.
Oh boy.
I know people like raccoons, but one, raccoons are not native to the Bahamas. They are a problem on the islands. Remember those rock iguanas that we was talking about that were smuggled?
Yep.
Well, there was once upon a time when one feral raccoon got on the key with those iguanas and almost wiped them out. One raccoon. By the time that raccoon was removed from the key, there were less than 200 of those rock iguanas left. The raccoon taking them out and eating them. Okay, the population has since bounced back to close to 2,000, I believe. But all it took was one raccoon on one key to go and destroy and almost wipe out an entire subpopulation of our endemic rock iguanas. So raccoons were introduced in the Bahamas in like the 1700s. And then so now they're on New Providence, they're on Grand Bahama, they're on Eleuthera. I believe they're also on Abaco. I gotta confirm that. But yeah, they have spread to a lot of these different islands, and they are a threat to our native biodiversity, and they're super smart. So
maybe washing their hands before they eat, bro.
Yep. Yeah, they're sensing the things the food that they have in their hands, special stuff on their hands help them to sense the food, whatever. They are cute, but yeah, I am not a big fan of them, unfortunately.
Understood. Totally understood. Raccoons are one of those type of species that I think Bahamians don't realize are not supposed to be here. Like the Casuarina trees that broke my ankle, but we're not gonna. I digress. Listen, I hate Casuarina, but anyway. I think there was right. So where's primeval forest? Let the people know. Where can they go to get to primeval forest?
Okay, so primeval forest is located out west by near Albany. I could send the link. I don't remember all of the directions directly to get there, unfortunately, out of my head. But definitely I could send that information to you guys. Yeah, but it's out west and near Albany.
Yeah, I saw Primeval Forest had a Facebook page. I quickly popped it in, but it's anyone who's listening, if you're interested in figuring out where it is, just go as west as you can and you'll start seeing the signage. Off of Frank Wilson Highway, or if you come up the Life Key Hill and then you make the left into South Ocean, you'll start to see the signs highlighting Primeval Forest. There is a parking lot there. It's a very safe area, and I actually think I might hit Primeval Forest this week, honestly, because I love Primeval Forest. So,
me too.
Yeah,
I highly recommend visiting Primeval Forest if you have not visited it as well. It is my favorite national park. And I visited a number of national parks across the country, but I think Primeval Forest still would be my favorite national park.
Right. And I know I see someone asking if it's safe. Yes, if you go on Saturday,
absolutely safe, and it's fenced and everything, so you don't have to worry about nothing. And they have trails and everything, so you don't have to worry about anything.
Safe, fun for kids and adults. So I would encourage everyone to go. And I know I see we have shout out to Raquel. If you want to get involved with the Bahamas National Trust to support people like Scott, right, who are doing these amazing things for our country, for all of us, right? All of we, right? Definitely either become a member, become a guardian, donate to the Bahamas National Trust to help people like Scott get the work done that we need to get done to make our country a better place as far as environmental concerns go. So I have the link up there. It's also in the comments for anyone who's interested. And I will use this time. Scott, give us some final thoughts. Like if you had to say anything right now based on what we've been talking about, because I know there's a lot of things, to the Bahamian people, what would be like a final thought that you'd like to give to people listening, even Bahamian or people just visiting the Bahamas, non-Bahamian residents, anyone? What would be a final thought for you?
I would say that you don't necessarily have to be working for an NGO to be a conservationist. A conservationist is anybody who is interested in the environment and willing to do stuff to help to protect and conserve it. You could be a web designer and you could help, or a graphics designer, and you could design wonderful flyers and posters about Bahamian wildlife and why you shouldn't kill this animal or that animal. You could be somebody who just has a beautiful yard and you maintain it and you plant native trees and stuff like that. You could be anybody, anybody can become a conservationist and help to preserve our wildlife. Remember, there's these islands, this archipelago of over 3,000 islands, keys, and rocks, not 700.
I was about to say it again, 3,000.
Yeah, is unique, and everybody who lives here can contribute to the well-being of our country. So you don't need to worry about, you don't have to say, oh, NGOs are responsible for this. No. If you see that there's a problem, you can address that problem too. Right. And you can help us do the work that we're doing, which is help to conserve and protect our wildlife.
Which, I mean, and that's so powerful. Like I held a beach cleanup yesterday. I'm not sure if I know you were traveling with the Cat Island Conservation Initiative, as well as Dr. Angelino Davis from Science and Perspective, and representing YME was Corinne Mullings, where we cleaned up some trash, right? From just along the canals in Coral Harbor. We only really got to a small patch, right? Yeah. But if you can, just quickly speak on how important that is, not only for marine environment, but also for our terrestrial environment. People are dumping glass bottles, plastic bottles, furniture, appliances. Like, that is so detrimental to our environment. And you can be a conservationist by simply either participating in these cleanups or donating things to help with these cleanups. But Scott, what are some of the negative impacts that you found on terrestrial animals when it comes to just people deciding to just dump their trash anywhere, whether it be a glass bottle or a fridge?
Well, you dump a glass bottle out there, some child goes walking outside, running outside, cut their foot wide open, that requires stitches for the child. You dump all your garbage out there. What you do is you just made a habitat for invasive animals like rats, which do spread diseases. I remember a few weeks ago, a gentleman, he drank a can. I think he drank from a can, and a rat peed on the top of the can. He ingested it, and he lost both of his legs because the rat had bacteria in it that almost killed him.
Yes, yeah.
And so, when you decide to be nasty, and throw them things in the bush, and you think that it ain't gonna pose a problem, and then also some of the materials that you may throw, paint and that kind of thing, that goes right down into the water table. A lot of Bahamians are still using groundwater as their water source. They're not using the city water that is regularly purified and stuff like that. And so what you do is you help to contaminate that water, thereby helping to make other people sick. You can make the environment a vector for diseases, and you just destroy an ecosystem. So please don't do that. Just carry the stuff to the proper facilities and just and deal with it that way, please.
Exactly. And I think the New Providence Ecology Park, I think is what it's called now, aka the former dump, you can put your dump and trash and garbage, whatever you want to call it, there for free. You don't have to come out in my neighborhood out Coral Harbor, deep in the west, in these random bush patches along the southern coast of the island.
And in the pine forest.
To dump your trash. It's free. Take it to the dump. Take it to the New Providence Ecology Park. They will dispose of it properly enough to where you don't have to pollute these areas. Yes. So being a conservationist, again, is as simple as, even if you don't get into the type of work that Scott does or that I do, you can participate in this island cleanup initiative, and they will be coming out every month. I hope to see Scott come out there one day, because we did see a centipede yesterday, and I was like, no way, I ain't gonna kill it, but I ain't in it. Like, I always love, because like I said, we did have Dr. Davis out there, and it's so great when I have people like you out who understand, because I suck at terrestrial, who have this knowledge of the terrestrial environment. So while you're cleaning up around these people, you were there as my free resource to educate people about these things. Like, what is a centipede and why does it act the way it does? Look at this bird. What type of bird is this? Look at this tree. This is native. This is invasive. Like, and then just, it's like that learning experience that happens when you are helping true blue conservationists as you do conservation work. So definitely for anyone listening, it's very easy to get involved or to donate if you can't spend the time. But Scott, thank you so much. I will open it up again. If you have like maybe a 1-sentence quick impact statement that you would give to Bahamians right now on anything you think is very potent and important to talk about.
Out of my head, I would just, I guess I'll reiterate a quote from BNT, which is Bahamas National Trust. We manage national parks to protect your future or protect our future. And so you help us and we help do what we do, which is help to protect and conserve the environment. Nothing awe-inspiring, but yeah.
Okay. And if I could quote Rodney Munker, powerful. This is powerful. So thank you so much. I don't see any more questions in the comments. Scott, it's been so amazing having you on the show finally. I'm so happy that you were able to come out and spend some time with me on this Sunday afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Hope to have you again. We're about to do some bird tagging, some snake handling. We in it to win it.
All right. I'm interested. I'm ready. So
I am here for it. Thank you everyone who's been watching. Scott, again, a million thank yous because I've always been so inspired by you. And I'm sure many Bahamians are as well. You've definitely shown that there is so much more to being a Bahamian living in the Bahamas than going and being a doctor or working in a hotel or in the bank. You can do something that is very passionate and very impactful for not just yourself, but the environment and the people, Bahamians, who live here. So everyone, don't forget, the ocean is not what separates our beautiful archipelago. It's what connects us. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Siren Sundays, and I hope to see you next time, and have a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Thanks again, Scott. You have a great Sunday afternoon. Bye, everyone.
Take care, Lashanti.
All right, you too.
All right.